Good morning. It's Friday morning. It is November 22nd. I wanted to mention a few things to you guys about the channel, like what's going on, what you see. Kind of week for me producing content for you guys. It's because I'm trying to get work done. And I'm getting a lot of stuff done and knocked out, and I'm not filming any of that because it eats up too much time trying to make videos about all the stuff that I'm doing when time is money. I got to get those things done, man. So I hope you guys understand. One day, if things worked into that realm of, you know, reality where that's where the channel goes, I don't know. It's not really what I'm planning on. But I know that there are channels where people, that's what they do. They just sit there, they make a project, they show the saw cutting into the wood. It's just a tremendous amount of work to do that sort of thing. And it's, personally, I can't watch that crap because it's boring. Because I've been doing it for decades. I don't see I get it visually. And I know there's a lot of people out there that love to watch that happen, every little intricate part. But when you're doing it for the sake of making a video, the art of making the video is the job. In my world, making the object and getting it done as well as I can under the parameters I'm working within, under the budget that I have, is what's most important. Case in point, a guy came over this week, really nice guy, would not take no for an answer. James, you know who you are. Really nice guy. So I had made that kitchen crate, kind of like my version of a chuck box in a way. I didn't want to call it a chuck box because it's not. It's a kitchen crate. But he saw that and he contacted me, and he lives real close, and he came over to the shop, and he's got this beautiful Forerunner. I'll insert a couple pictures. Hang on. So that's James with his beautiful, I think it's a 2022, I think he said, Toyota Forerunner. Decked out, man. I mean, it's nice. And he's got this deck in the back. I don't know what the company name is. It is made in the USA. And it assembles without fasteners. It's joinery. It's all CNC machine cut out of plywood. So the guy did his work initially. Figuring it all out. Now it's just a computer thing. You put the plywood in, it comes out, sands those parts, stains them, sends it out in a package, you put it together. And what it does in the back of the Forerunner is it creates a flat deck with the two seats, the rear seats folded down, so you can put a mattress on it and sleep back there. What are you doing, man? And he has, now where the seats go underneath there's a little bit of a ramp to that, but behind those seats to the rear hatch, there's a plastic tray there that comes with the vehicle that this thing is sitting on as well. You got about 33 inches of depth and about something like 39 inches of width between these rails. And he wanted me to make him two trays that are going to slide in there. You just pull them out and put stuff in it. So I bought the plywood yesterday, but I'm also doing, and I explained this to him, and he gets it, he's cool. I'm doing a bunch of stuff at the house that I'm working on too. And so today I'm going to be milling lumber and cutting plywood. I cut a bunch of the plywood yesterday on the floor with my track saw. I usually will use a track saw system to cut the plywood into smaller parts that I can then trim and get better cuts on the table saw. It's just better than wielding around a 4x8 sheet of plywood on the table saw. At any rate, that's what I'll be working on today, but it's not really what I wanted to talk to here. What I wanted to kind of get at is some of the videos I've put out lately, and then some of the comments to kind of warn you guys that happen underneath some of these videos. So I've done a few videos here on these flashlights. And I want you guys to understand something. I am not getting paid to do these videos. There was a comment somebody made where he alluded to, like, I'm trying to push a product because I'm in their pocket. No, and they're not in my pocket either. They don't pay me shit. So these companies are interesting. So I don't seek them out. I'm not contacting companies saying, hey, I like what you got there, I'd like to put it on the channel. What happens is I get them every day now. Every day, practically. I'm getting emails from some company saying, hey, we like your content, we like your style, we think that our product would be something your viewers would like, and 80% of the time it's not anything I want to show you. It's not something I'm into. But I like gadgets that are the sort of things that I would use, and you know, that's all that is. And I always need a flashlight, so if a company's going to contact me and they've got some cool new fangled flashlight, yeah, they're going to send me one or a couple of them or whatever it is for nothing, as long as I just do the video for them. That's easy. Now what happens is there's parameters sometimes that they want. Now, if they're too overbearing, I tell them I don't want the product, I'm not going to do the video, because I'm not going to work within those parameters. I'm not going to say something that you want me to say if it's not, it has to be genuine. If like, okay, yesterday I did a video on the Rovi Von flashlights. Now, that was user error with me. It's so funny. I didn't take the time to read everything. I'm a man. I take it out of the box, I start using it without, you know, reading all the instructions. It's like a brain tease for myself. I want to see if I can figure it out without looking at instructions. That is the mark of a well-designed product. If somebody can take something out of a box and figure it out without the need for looking at directions. Now, what I learned when I watched the video, I saw the direction sheet. Now, I'll probably look at it when I get to the shop today and maybe bring that up. I might do a short on it for the company. But there's a thing about that. You click it 5 times. When the light blinks twice, it's telling you it's locked. If you click it 5 times and then the light blinks 3 times, it's unlocked, and then it'll work. I didn't articulate that in the video, so I'm just letting you know that. But back to this comment about me being in somebody's pocket. What they'll do is they want to do these, what they call affiliate links. And what that is there'll be a link there. You see other videos doing this. Other YouTubers will go, hey, if you're interested, use the link below. You can save a percentage and I get a little bit of money. And it's kind of neat for the YouTuber, I suppose. However, if you do that, now you're kind of locked in with that company, and that starts eating up your time in other ways with that company. All right, they're sending you notes, they're saying this, you got to do this, do that, can't do that, take that down, change that, you said this. You know, my thing is I try to tell them, hey, I'm off the cuff, I'm a human being, I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to mispronounce something or give a little bit of wrong information here and there. Just know that that's part of the shtick in a way with me and you guys that watch the channel. You kind of expect that from me, that you should be. Some of you still don't get it. You want to like set me up, correct me, give me grief for something. It's fine. It's, again, just to jump back here, do a little of the weave. I'm kind of purposefully trying to do everything on this channel now as low tech as possible, on purpose, for a bunch of different reasons. One is to prove it can be done. I know too many YouTubers and I watch too much YouTube to see the amount of work that these people put in, who are not really in the end getting compensated for it when you think about it. Like, there's no point, in my opinion, of doing YouTube, you know, if it becomes a full-time job, if you're not being compensated enough for it. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's good that people want to do everything to that nth degree, and I appreciate it. I appreciate going to a channel, and the drone footage is awesome, and everything's perfect. A lot of those people are doing okay with it, but that has become their full-time job, and some people might not understand is that, like, because I didn't know all this getting into it. Making the video is one thing, Like right now, I should be in the shop. I'm going to do it. Editing is the thing, which I don't do. So I'm already saving time there. I'll take a few minutes to stitch some clips together, make a clip shorter or longer, edit it that way, and then stitch those clips together and just put it out there. And that's pretty much it. But then there's a tremendous amount of time responding to it, like reading comments and understanding and learning, and your brain gears are always turning in that way. So YouTube's on your mind a lot, which could be a thing that for some people might not be healthy, especially if they care what they look like, if they care what they're saying, if they're nervous about offending people. I'm not playing that game. I'm going to be me all the time, and it's just going to ruffle some people's feathers, and I'm okay with that, because when I don't get a lot of bad comments, but we'll get into this here, because there was something that happened. But back again to the product thing. It's the weave. I'm bringing it back just quickly, because I got to get in the shop here. I tell the companies I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do the link to try to make some money, because I thought about it. I don't have those numbers at this point where 5,000 people are going to go buy a product because I put it out there and I said I like it. So I'm only imagining in my mind, like, what would I get out of it every month, or however their pay scale is. It's gonna be like $5, because you're getting pennies or whatever it is per the item. And to me, it's not worth the aggravation of dealing with that. I got enough stuff to deal with already. I got a real job. I got to make money. I got to hustle in that way. I got the house thing. I got family stuff. I got a life, Even though I live alone, spend all my time alone most evenings, I'm still talking to people throughout the day, and there's phone calls and all kinds of stuff. This Sunday night's chat, I think, is going to be about how social media saved my life in a way. The perspective of a bachelor. I think it's going to be a good discussion for you guys. So I'm not doing any affiliate links. When you click on those links for the products I put in there, that's just so you could buy the product. You could do your own research. I'm always telling you, do your own research on everything. Hey, here's an item I like. These people sent it to me. Here it is. Here's what I know about it right now. I just took it out of the box. I don't know how it works yet. It's a first impressions kind of unboxing sort of video. But if you like it, and maybe I gave the right sort of enthusiasm for it, the link's right there. You go do your own research. You decide if that's for you. Okay? Let's keep this going in the shop as I set it up. All right, as I was saying, you get to do your own research, right? Whether or not you want that product, whether or not it works for you. So that brings up another point I wanted to talk about. Some guy made a comment about the flashlight because I was going through the clicks. Again, I mentioned I had that wrong. And I'm not knocking this dude. I don't know him personally. But I know this mindset. And it was like, he kind of went after like this newfangled technology. It was a great comment, actually. When I was a kid, a flashlight, you pushed the button, it went on. When you pushed the button again, it went off. That's how it worked. These companies are creating all the stuff that we don't need, blah, blah, blah. Hey, that's totally legit. That's a legit comment. And he's not wrong. I shot like about a 20-minute video here when I was doing, when I wanted to do the Woobin X2 Pro flashlight video. And I had all my flashlights out that I have, like in the van, and I use at the apartment and whatnot. All the round flashlights. A lot of them are just flashlights. Meaning, you turn it on, you turn it off. Although a lot of them had a thing where you could click the button and it would get brighter, brighter, brighter. Something like that, but they don't have multicolor lights and flashing and all that. They're, pretty basic flashlights. The thing is about the new technology where flashlights have all these multi-functions and different color lights is that people like them, they are selling, and that's just life. Build a better mousetrap. That's capitalism. So, you know, and if all that stuff was 100% superfluous, they would not be on the market because they wouldn't be making any money. So clearly people like these things. And especially tactical or tactical style stuff like that, you know, the red light is important. You know, map reading with the red light, you can't see it at a distance. Things like that are cool. The signal light, it could save a life. I have a friend, he was a rescue guy in up on the mountain there above Palm Springs. I can't think of it. My recall sometimes isn't great, by the way. I was thinking about this. It's part of the weave. You know, I've got too much on my mind on a day-to-day basis, just based on what I'm doing right now. All the stuff I'm trying to get done with the work and money and relationships, all the stuff that's happening. When I start talking about a topic, my recall's not always there because while I'm talking to you and I'm trying to focus on this, there are other things going on in my brain right now. Mount Jacinto, the Jacinto Mountains there. So my buddy worked up there, and he was always telling me that sort of light that blinks, they find people that way. Brightly, when I went to hike up there with him, it was the winter time, and I had this Patagonia sea kayaking Gore-Tex thing from the 80s, like the late 80s, that was a bright coral color. It's waterproof. So we go up there, and he sees that. He goes, I love that. That's what we like to see. Because people get lost up here. Sometimes it takes them months to find somebody. People die up there all the time. So this stuff, it's practical. These functions, these multi-functions. If it's not for you, that's fine. It's just that it's, again, I bring this sort of thing up. It's just, okay, you want me to know what you think about it, and that's good. I want interaction in the comments. It's important for the videos. It's part of the YouTube algorithm. It's how you're going to grow the channel, interacting with the people and everything else. At the same time, it's always interesting. Here's this. Here's what it does. Okay, you know what? I don't like that. I want this. Okay. Why are you telling me that then? You know, it's kind of like, if you don't have anything nice to say, shut the fuck up. No, I'm just messing with you. It's good. You made it. It's a good point to make. The thing that is bad that I'm seeing in the comments lately, every once in a while, it's kind of rare, is I'm getting something. Oh, we're going to talk about this. I got to talk about this too. I'm so pissed off about this. But I'm getting these weird comments that I think it's trolls. It could be bots. I think they want to undermine the harmony that we kind of have here on my channel. You know, those of you that have been here a little while now, that make comments in there, and it's mostly all positive. You guys kind of dig on what I'm saying, what I have to say, what I'm showing you, whatever it is. Every once in a while you'll see this thing. So there was a comment, and it's in the Rovi Von video, and I left it. I leave a lot, there's not a lot of negative comments, but I mostly leave them. But he said, you know, you got to stop deleting comments. And he went off on this whole tirade without mentioning. And it was very strange because it was totally out of context for that video, which is a pet peeve of mine, by the way. A lot of people do it. I'll post the video and people will comment there about another video I did a year or more ago, asking me questions about that video in the comment section of the current video that was just most recently posted. Don't do that. Go back to the original video and make the comment there. I'm going to get that notification. I'm going to see that there's a new comment. That's how YouTube works. I go to my comments. I get these comments. It's all the comments that were made since the last time I checked from all the videos that I have. So I'm not going to miss it. At any rate, this guy, which is probably not a real person, because whenever I get a really snide comment like that, I go to their channel and there's no content there. So you never know what's going on. Now, you have to have a YouTube channel, I suppose, to view the videos in the first place. Fine. Anyhow, he was just accusing me of kind of gerrymandering my comments section, so everything looks positive. I've gotten those comments before. I can see how it looks that way because it's like 98% positive stuff there. Well, maybe that's just because I'm likable, douchebag. Maybe I'm just a likable douchebag. guy is a douchebag. So I'm just saying, let's not get, when that happens, it's like I'll respond usually once to like, because you have to address the claim. No, and I'll just to give you guys the heads up on this. I've done this before. Yeah, I've deleted a few comments. I'm pretty certain it's less than 6 out of all the comments I've had. And I don't know how many videos. I've got well over 1,000 videos on YouTube. The comments I did delete were just really, really nasty, offensive, using really offensive language, that sort of thing. And I kind of want to keep like a nice harmony in the comment sections and with all of us. Like, we can agree to disagree, all of that. Sometimes I misread a comment. I don't understand it right. Maybe I take it the wrong way. I don't delete those. So I made that statement in my response to him. And then, but I also pointed out that his, it seems like a mental disorder. Somebody just wants to be negative, make up a bunch of crap, the only purpose of which would be to create disharmony amongst my viewers, subscribers, and anybody else reading the comments section, which is kind of a douchebag thing to do. So that's it. But what I loved about it is my people, you're my people, subscribers, went underneath there and kind of had fun with that, and they kind of goofed on him, and he tried to come back. I love this. I wouldn't doubt this person was an academic, because the way that they came back, because I said that they had they're putting their mental disorder on full display. And he's like, well, if I had a mental disorder, what would you diagnose me as? I'm not answering that. I'm not going to get caught up in that sort of thing. I got more important things to do, like goof on you now in this video. But I'm just saying, you're going to see stuff like that from time to time in there, because I know that I ruffle some people's feathers by some of the things I say, just having a point of view. Especially after this election, right? And I got to tell you, I've been in the best mood since this. I watch Gutfeld every night. I'm not really following too much of the media. I'm not watching news anymore at home. I just kind of get on the YouTube and I watch podcasts. I kind of see what's happening. But Gutfeld's been great. And Wednesday night, I watched it last night with Jordan Peterson. If you can go back and watch that, I'll bring this up on Sunday, because what Jordan Peterson talked about when it came to living your life, being in control of it, what was the 3 things he was talking about there? It was, taking risk, truth, just living in truth, speaking your truth all the time. That is adventure naturally. I'm not trying, my point is everything he said is exactly who I am. And I never kind of like tried to put that into those terms before, because it's not about fluffing myself up here, but that's what I've always done. Whenever I'm around people, I speak my mind, I tell it like I see it. You guys know that. And I let the chips fall where they may, and by being my authentic self all the time, it is an adventure, because I never know how that's going to work out with people. I don't know what the outcome is going to be if I'm speaking my mind, because I'm not trying to manipulate the situation by trying to say the right things necessarily, because I want to get what I want. I will live, you guys know, I will live for a month or more without making any money. That doesn't mean I didn't have opportunities. Oftentimes I have opportunities, but I don't want to be around those people that are giving me the opportunity. You heard? It's like that's the reason I walked away from the film industry and the acting and everything. We'll talk about that too. Briefly here, I got to have a shot and get back to work. These are rails for the Festo track system. And I'm using currently, I also have the one that's 9 feet behind you. It's 9 feet long. I'm using the Makita track saw, which works with the Festool rails. It'll work right on there, and it takes 2 18-volt batteries. I love this thing. It's awesome. The problem is this never stays on. It just doesn't stay. And these things aren't cheap. You buy the replacements for it, and I'm not stupid. I take this off, I clean it like it's brand new, acetone, everything. Totally clear, like bare metal, no schmutz on it, nothing. I make sure the temperature's right. Right now it's chilly in here. I wouldn't do it now. I'd have to get out in the sun, let these warm up a little bit. And then I put the thing on perfectly, peel the paper off, stick it on, and it just always peels off. It moves and it peels off. It just doesn't stick. And it aggravates the hell out of me. If somebody's got a solution for that, please let me know. Because it's just highly aggravating. If you guys don't know what this is, you just lay this on a board, you run the saw, it's a perfect straight line. It has a couple of these rubber pads on the bottom here, and that creates enough friction so they don't necessarily slide around. But you'll also see here, this is extruded aluminum. There's a little shape cut out here. You see that? And here. So what that does is you can put two of these together with a rail, hold them together, make them longer. The only issue with that is sometimes this isn't super perfect. You really got to align that correct. That's why I have all the different lengths. The other thing that you could do with that is there are these clamps. There's two of these clamps. So you could slide this in here and then clamp that to the work. You could even clamp the work to a table and then it can't move. And I do that a lot when I'm building like a precision piece of furniture, but I need to use this saw. You can set the saw at 45 degrees. I can cut on my miters that way. It's cool. It's a nice system. That Festo stuff was not cheap. At any rate, that's what's happening. I'll talk more. I just want to get this set up. I got to set up my joiner planer today. A lot of the plywood is stacked right here. I cut it on the floor yesterday. And I've got all this redwood. Where is it? Oh, it's right there. I selected, they were all 16 footers, but it's relatively vertical grain here. And I'm going to mill this up to about 1 inch thick. And I got a piece of plywood there that is cut for the front door here. It's 3/4 inch plywood. The door is 1 3/4 inches. So I'm going to make a frame around the back side of it of 1 inch thick with this. And I'm taking the front door off and I'm putting that panel where the door is. And it's a big, heavy, very heavy door. It's 41 5/8 of an inch wide, 77 5/8 of an inch tall, solid wood, old door. So I'm going to do the work on the front porch where I take the door down, put it on a table, and the bottom of it has rotted a bit. It's a solid wood door that was made of glue-ups. This is the way they did it back then. Oftentimes people don't realize this. They put wood veneer on it. And on the inside, it's like a gumwood veneer. And on the outside, it's a white oak. So I milled up this piece of white oak. It's 1 3/4 inches thick. It's the appropriate length. I don't know what the height is on this. About 6.5 inches or so. And I'm going to cut the bottom of that door off. I'm going to mortise some holes here and then drill through this. And then this is going to go on the bottom of that door with big bolts in the bottom with Type-On 2 wood glue. And then I'm going to sand that door out there and kind of, I'm not refinishing it per se, but I'm going to go ahead and put the varnish on. Somebody asked me what the varnish was I've been using on the doors and everything here. This is the stuff here that I've been using. So, and I want to put that on with the door flat and build up several coats of that. And I like to do that when I can because I can flood a lot of the imperfections with the varnish and let that harden up flat. And then once that's dry enough, and this stuff dries pretty quick, then I can stand the door up and get it back up on the hinges. So that's the plan with that. But in order to do that, I've got to put a replacement door in place. That's just how that works. I'm going to turn you off for now, but this ain't over. I'll come up with some other stuff throughout the day as I'm working, and you guys will kind of see how the shop is set up as I'm doing things. I get all the stuff off the table, so basically got to clean up the shop every morning when I get here to set up for whatever I'm going to do. I'll show you this really quick. This This is it's my friend Kirgy's Christmas present. Doesn't look like much, right? There's a piece of walnut, and she's got a kitchen window, and she's got flat casing around that window. It's like a 1x3, and that's what this is shaped. So this will lay right on top of that casing and wrap around the side of it. Right, it's about 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm going to drill a couple holes through this, here and here. All right, I'll chamfer those holes, and this will go right on the molding. Bam! And you put a couple screws in the side of that molding, and that sits right there. There's 2 of them, obviously. And then this shelf, which is like this tray, this is all African mahogany that I made. It's got a little lip to it all the way around. That's just going to sit right on there, right in front of the window. So she could place stuff on there. That'll look pretty cool. She'll be happy. Things won't just fall off. I just got to get some finish on it. And that'll happen in the next week or so. Alright, don't go anywhere. There'll be more to come. Hey, just a quick thing. When I'm using these rails, I'm putting like a full sheet of plywood on the floor. And this is some plywood. These are some rips I had from old jobs. Happens to be a marine grade plywood that had this laminate on it. I did a project for a restaurant down in Santa Monica. I had to build them a cabinet with this. And I just lay these down and I move them where they need to be moved. So there's 5 of them. And so if I'm cross-cutting the sheet, I make sure I have one of these on each side of the saw cut, and then I support the part that's going to fall off, and of course the other part. It works out okay. I'm kind of impressed with what I see people doing these days, where they buy like that foam insulation, like a sheet of that. They put it on a table and they cut through it. I don't have the space to store a giant piece of foam in here and have it in here all the time. This takes up a lot less space. I just stack these off on the side and pull them out each time I use them. The key is you got to make sure you set your saw to the correct depth so you cut through the material. It's okay to cut into this, but you clearly don't want to cut into your floor, especially when you got concrete here, because you'll ruin your saw blade. So that's all. Just wanted to point that out. From the woodworker types, I get that thing all the time, you know, that you guys want the tips. And it's what this is here. This piece of white up here is that, and this is, it says rip straight on it. That's not, I made a joke once before, that's not meant to say, let's get you up here. So that's not about saying rest in peace straight people. It's just rip straight. And of course I got the hoopers. That was on the toolbox, and I love just promoting the fact that that's a horrible company that totally screwed my van up and could have killed me and took my money and did crap work. So never bring anything there. Yeah, so the way that works is when you put a board up on the table saw, or you want to rip a board, I got that issue with these redwood pieces. If you're sighting your board, give you a miniature scale of it. You're going to lay this on the table saw and you want to rip that, but that board has a bow to it this way. Well, you put it up against that white thing up there, that straight edge, you lay that up there, and you point to point on there and measure your distance from the outside edge there to this point here. Set your table saw, run it. You're going to get this to rip straight. Then you can flip the board around, run the straight edge against table saw, and now you've ripped that board straight. That's one of the first steps you're going to do when you're milling things, you know. That you'll cut your length first, then you'll do that. Then I'm going to run it on the joint or planer to flatten one side perfectly. Then I'm going to take it to the bandsaw, and I'm going to flip it up on end. I will make this edge 90 degrees, and I'll resaw it. And now it's pretty close to what I want, and I let it sit overnight. I come back the next day. I put a bunch of lines across this. I face joint it again, make that perfectly flat. Then I can run it through the planer and make these two sides perfectly parallel to one another, perfectly flat board. Yeah. And then I do the rest of the work. And You get all the boards you need to be milled exactly the way you want, then you can start constructing something. And that process alone, we've been through this, that could take days sometimes, because sometimes that wood keeps moving every time. And you want to get to the point where you've taken the movement out. So you have to think well in advance and buy material that's larger than what you need to complete the project, because you're going to be removing material. As you remove the material, energy is released because it was a natural product. And the direction of the wood grain and everything else matters. You have to know how to read the wood so you can anticipate what's going to happen, so you're not wasting your money. A lot of the times people build projects and then they move afterwards, they twist or something. It's because they didn't go through the process I just described. I have complete videos on this channel. You know, how to mill wood for heirloom quality furniture, things like that. There's a playlist with the woodworking tips. I don't remember what it's called, but if you're interested in that, go check out those videos. They're good. I appreciate the advice on troubleshooting this. I have not bought a tester yet, but I did get the switch. It's coming in the mail. I'll put that in. Hopefully it'll solve the problem. If it doesn't, then I'll troubleshoot it properly. Just kind of showing you what I go through here. Right? Before you know it, all these surfaces will be clean and I'll be able to work. This is a bunch of plywood scrap that I have sitting up here. I hate throwing away usable stuff. I do eventually. But what I've been thinking about this is cutting this stuff up and making a wood tote, like a couple wood totes. I make stuff like that all the time. Like here's this thing here, and this has a handle that folds over. It's great in the van, and they're useful. Gas cans I'm moving around right now in the shop because I have not mounted one underneath the van yet. This is the problem with this space. It's not perfect. And, you know, moving this stuff around is always sketchy because I could damage it just by moving it around. This machine, this is the Inca 590 joiner planer. I keep this up here because I place objects on it. I try not to whack this because it's a finicky machine. It can get out of alignment and then you have to go through this whole process of reworking it, and it's a hassle. Moving it around on this floor, all the cracks and everything, is not good for it. I'm so looking forward to moving and having a better shop where this can just sit in one place and I don't have to keep moving it. That's good. And then I've got this cord here. I've got 220 run. So I'm running 220 in here for this. This is a Leeson 2 horsepower motor on here, and you could wire it for 110 or 220. It's a good machine. It's designed for furniture builders and really European shops, which tend to be even smaller than the space I have here. But they tend to be dedicated shops. So again, usually you're not moving the machines around. It's made in France. I believe it's a German or a Swiss design. And it's just great. I've done videos on this, the Inca 590 joiner planer. It just produces a superior finish on wood. It has 3 blades in this Tersa head here. that are held in place with these floating blocks. The centrifugal force throws these blocks up against the blade, locks it in place perfectly every time. You don't have to adjust it, and they're double-sided. And you can release the blocks by tapping them with a block of wood and a hammer, and you can slide the blade slightly in each direction. So you can, when you're planing, you might see some grooves in the wood, and if you shift those blades in different directions, you can effectively erase those lines in the wood. And then once the blades dull a bit, you just slide them out, flip them over, stick them both in, back in, and you're back to work again. It's a really just a superb machine. I can hear that I have to maintain it from time to time, and it sounds like the bearings might be going or something in this thing. So it's going to need an overhaul pretty soon. I bought it used back in the 1990s, like mid to late, probably 96-ish or so. And I don't remember what I spent on it. I know that back then it was about, with the stand and everything, I believe it was a $3,000 to $4,000 machine. I forget what I paid, but I might have paid like $1,500 for it or something at the time. And it has been a true workhorse. These brass knobs here are not what came with it. My brother had a machinist friend of his mill these up for me because I asked him to, because I was breaking the plastic knobs all the time, trying to get that right. So that was an improvement I did on that. Hey, since I'm talking machines, I might as well just show you what I have here. This is my Laguna 18-inch bandsaw. What that is, it's 18 inches from the blade to the body here of space to get stuff in there, which is great. And I don't know what I have on height for this. There we go. There's like usually 15 friggin' tape measures in here all over the place. You have 18 inches from the table to here, but you can't cut under that because you've got all this here. So, yeah, you probably got about 13.5 inches to 14 inches of height on this. And this is where I do, and I have maxed this out. I've had boards that thick, that wide, that I put up on end to resaw them. It's a 3 horsepower motor on it too. I used to have an S45, I can't think of the name of it, but only had a 1.5 horsepower motor on it. It was always bogging down on me. It was a real hassle. And then this machine here, which again, you guys have probably seen if you've watched enough of my videos. Sorry, Mike's in the front. This is a hollow chisel mortiser made by General. So it makes square holes. There's a drill bit inside this square chisel that's hollow, and there's a slot here, so as I pull this into the wood chips come out, so I can make slot mortises with that. And it's a tremendous time saver when I'm building furniture. When I first started doing the furniture thing, I was doing all my joints by hand, and oh my gosh, that is just super time consuming and laborious. So if you're going to do this stuff, you want to make money, you got to buy the machines. Now, you guys might get a kick out of this. I found this up on the shelf the other day. And by the way, yeah, this is my lunch every day now. 3 hard-boiled eggs and a banana that I really eat throughout the day. This is something I had a guy hit me up on these. It's a good story. I've told it before. It's an old story. He had a shop around the corner. He was selling Tiffany lamps and other style leaded lamps, and he had original Roycroft and Stickley pieces and all the pieces of that mission style furniture. And so I did a series of coffee tables for him. There's no such thing as a mission style coffee table as far as like a genuine piece, because coffee tables didn't exist back then. So I made coffee tables in that style for him out of quarter sawn oak. He's the guy that had me counterfeiting, which I didn't realize I was doing at first, the Charles Rolfe's pieces. I did a video on that. I've got a Charles Rolfe rocking footstool I made in mahogany, but he had me do a bunch of pieces where he supplied the materials and all that. At any rate, he hit me up on this. He had one of these. It was all beat up. He wanted me to recreate it. This one's a little bit different. And I told him I can't do it cheap. So those things, he had me make a bunch of them for him. and he gave them away to some people. It was high-end stuff. He sold a few for a lot of money, and I made a few out of the scrap that I sold for about $400 a piece. And what it is if you're into, this one's a little bit different. Okay, this one isn't the Gumby foot. I just realized that. But they're called Gumby foot cutting boards. I have one at my house. You guys have seen it. It's a small wood cutting block that has Gumby feet, 4 of them, that lifts it up off the table. This is higher than normal, but on a normal 29 to 30 inch table, it's the perfect size where you could stand upright and cut cheese. It's a nice thing to have. And I made a couple of those out of scraps. And then what I would do from time to time is when I would make my cutting boards, my normal cutting boards, I'd glue them up and I'd cut the ends off to shape them. And I would take those ends and turn them into other things. This is one of those other things. Still got some wax on it. It's pretty nice. Yeah, it's sitting pretty well here. So on this one I made, like, I don't know what you call this, maybe a bridge leg or something. It might seem whitish to you, but that's because I oiled it and waxed it. It's very thick. It's 3 inches thick. It is 11 3/8 by 10 1/8. That's a pretty good size to cut most things. It's just a nice thing to put on a normal table with a little bit of extra height here, so that when you're standing at a normal table, it's comfortable to cut on. That's all. And this is the sort of thing you could have as a display in the, hey, it's Thanksgiving coming up, right? You can put a platter on this. It elevates something in the center of the table. It looks nice. If you have a wine and cheese party sort of thing, you can have this out here. You can cut your cheese on there. And again, this was made up of cutting boards that I had glued up that would have gone this way. So those cutting boards were all that's 2 3/8, 2 1/4, 2 1/4, 2 5/16, 2 5/16. So they're all different thicknesses this way, and that would have been the cutting board from there out. So what you have here is actual end grain, not the edge grain. This is the end grain of each board. So it's pretty cool. They call that self-healing. That's your traditional style cutting board. Happens to be cherry, Purple Heart, mahogany, walnut, white oak. Seems to be what's all in this. Maybe some ebony, Macassar ebony there. So some rarish, harder woods. Oh, some beech looks like to me. Yep, that's definitely some beech right there. Just a nice thing. I'd offer it for sale, but I was kind of considering giving this away as a gift to somebody. I think I was maybe going to give this to the watch shop guys, for the wife there, because they just do so many nice things. Saturday I went over there and helped them move a safe and do a bunch of stuff. Majestic is at the same location, but they moved from the first floor to the third floor. Pretty crazy. Again, another thing I should have filmed for you. They have a safe that weighs almost a ton. I called a safe moving place for them to see if they would do it, but it was too much. They didn't want to spend the money, so what they did was they they rented a pallet dolly, and the elevator limit was only 1,500 pounds. So I got in the elevator with it and then climbed out over the top of it. We sent it up the floors without anybody in it because it would have exceeded. I'm sure that that thing actually exceeded the weight limit of the elevator as it was. Sketchy as hell, but we did it and it worked out perfect. We'll talk about that later. All right, I just described this to you guys a few moments ago. Got to straight line these for that door. This has a bow to it like that. So I'm going to sit it right here. I'm going to take a measurement. It's telling me it's 8.5 inches. The saw blade height is set just above the height of the material. Any more than that, you're working the motor too hard. Set this up at a little under 8.5. I'm happy to net 3 inches out of this width, and a standard 2x4 is about 2.5 inches. I have to plug in my dust collector because the switch is broken. Touching the grill of the van right there. I got the van pulled in a little bit close today, but you got to see how that works. Now that's a perfect straight line. Now I can flip it and I can rip it. And then I'm going to go ahead and go over to the machine over here, and I might show you a couple seconds of that too. Simple. Alright, I've oftentimes been asked how to use this machine with longer pieces. So what I do is I put this level here. It's perfectly flat on the outfeed table. A planer or joiner, which is what this is, works where the infeed table is slightly lower than the outfeed table, and the knives are set up to run right about the same height as the outfeed table. So as the blade is spinning, the wood goes in, it removes that material that you adjust by adjusting the height of the infeed table. That'll adjust how much material you're removing in each pass. And then the board goes straight across here and it's done. But if it's longer than this long, you need to set something like this up here. And so what I do is I adjust it here and here on that little rotating wheel here. Now, it's out of whack. You want to eyeball this and try to make sure it's relatively square, right? This thing here to the outfeed table. And then you've got to kind of adjust it based on this. There's two knobs here to lower and raise this, and you can lock it in place, and I'll get that pretty close. Doesn't have to be super perfect at the moment. And I spin that. This thing is rotating. There's 4 pads on this, and they're kind of like cams. And you could twist them on the feet, and you can lift or lower all 4 corners of this to get this to sit level with the outfeed table. Now it's solid. I got about a 1/16 of an inch heavy right here, but I can see that I'm off here. This is a little bit lower, so I'm going to lift this end here to match it so that it won't rock. This is tedious stuff. I don't like doing it. When you're raising this end, it's lowering that end. Although we're pretty close here. Now I'll raise this up to where it's just going to graze when I rotate it. Now if it stops, it's a little high. It's better to have it slightly low. I mean, I'm talking a hair. That's pretty good. I'm going to just lower it just like a 1/16 of an inch. And that's pretty good. I know now that my workpiece, when it's coming off this outfeed table, it's not going to twist here and then cause a problem with the other end of the board. You understand? So this now, right now, this is pretty much in line with this. It's just the slightest bit of drop off, which is good because I'm really controlling it with the force I apply to the top of the board on the outfeed table. If this was slightly higher, there'd be a problem because I'd be going in with this and it would be ramping up and it would create a board. Instead of being flat, it would arc up at the end. And that's a real problem, so you want to avoid that. On this machine in my old shop, this is not an exaggeration, I've milled 12-foot long pieces of mahogany, big timbers, and made them perfect. So it's just, you know, I was a lot bigger muscular-wise back then and stronger to manhandle those giant timbers. And I had to have an infeed table, which was 4 rollers, which I had somewhere. I left it underneath somebody's house at some point, but I might have picked it up and put it somewhere. At any rate, I'd have the infeed table over there, and I'd hold it perfect. I had to force it tight up against this fence. That's another thing. Every time I use this machine, I've got to make sure that this fence is 90 degrees to the infeed table. And, you know, because I move this around the shop all the time, it moves around a little. You got to get that pretty close. And then you kind of adjust that by how hard you're forcing that board tight at the bottom edge here into the bottom. It's a thing, right? It's a thing. And you got to figure this out. And it's just when you're building furniture grade stuff, your work, you know, each one of these pieces have to be perfectly 90 degrees at all the joints. So when you're doing your glue ups, everything remains flat. redwood right there has been face joined and edged. Bunch of pieces standing over there up against the plywood. And the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to run them through the bandsaw. I'm going to put the part that I just face joined and the part that I edged, table and fence, because that's 90 degrees, and I'm going to thickness these down to about 1 1/8 inch and 3/16. These are going to eventually be 1 inch. Those can be a little bit thicker if I want. I'll show you what those are for in a little bit. And I'll film me doing this one time. I took a corner of my finger off on this machine here. I mean, it just grazed me. You know, that layer of skin where it just starts bleeding like crazy. So I put a Band-Aid on it and I'll be okay. Not the first time, won't be the last time. You know, you can't be a little bitch about stuff like that. You got to keep working. So with that, hang on. See the vertical grain. What you see there is a stack of wood here. It's funny, the song, the Four Tops were just on. The song, What is a Man? 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 It goes through all this stuff. Well, one of them is, you know, being able to get injured and keep friggin' working and not bitching about it. But what I'm going to do here is I got to make these trays. Now, you guys might remember, if you were watching, I did that kitchen crate thing for the van. And that was just butted joints with plywood. And that's fine. That's all this guy wanted. But I was thinking about it, and like I said, I got to make these 2 trays that go in the underneath his bed platform there. But I got a better idea, and what I want to do is on the 2 ends where the hand holes are going to be, I want to make them out of this redwood and have the bottom, the sides, the inner structure, and the top all plywood. But when you look in the van, it'll be the redwood, which he's going to probably stain black anyhow. And I'm going to do a rabbet on the sides and across the bottom. So from the end, you don't see the edge of the plywood. And you won't see any, you shouldn't see any screws. I might go in that way, but I doubt it. I think I'm just going to go through the plywood into the end grain. These boxes are going to be 9 inches tall. So I'm going to glue these together. It's my bloody rag there. So I'm going to glue these together, trim them down to 9 inches, but once they're glued up, my joiner planer there, I could run 10 1/8, almost 10 1/4 inches through those blades. This is going to be 9 inches, so it'll be fine. So once it's glued up, I'm going to face join it again. Then I can run it through the planer, and all four of them will be exactly the same thickness, and they'll be flat, you know, parallel, both sides to one another. And then I could do the work with them. And I'll explain the rabbet to you. I'll draw that on a piece of paper. So that would be the inside of one of these end panels here. And the plywood would butt up against here. The plywood at the bottom butts up against the bottom. So this is a rabbet here. It's a rabbet across the bottom, and I got to make a handhold through there to grab through that'll be comfortable for you to hold on to. So, and if you're looking at that straight on from the back side, something like that. Hopefully you guys can kind of understand what's going on there. So next step is to just go ahead and glue these up. It takes about 20 minutes for the Titebond 2 glue to set up enough for you to work it. So by the time I'm done gluing up the last one, I'll probably just I'll eat another hard-boiled egg or something. But I'll have these milled up today, probably. And then that's about 1 o'clock now. And then I keep working. You know, I'll make the trays, probably cut the plywood to the right size and all that. So if you see more after this, you will. And if you don't, this will be it. And if I decide not to do any more, I'll sign off with a little bit here. But this video's all over the place. Just, again, this is what a normal day for me is like. All over the place. All right, you know what? We're going to call this the end of this video. It's probably pretty long. I just shot a bunch of clips, you know. And, anyhow, as I was saying, that's the end of this video. So I hope you got something out of this. But that's just, you know, another day in the life kind of ADHD thing. I started shooting some footage of the spare tire mechanism that I took off the van and cleaned it up. There was like 4 short videos. I put them together. You've already seen that. I posted it earlier already today. I'm leaving that out of this video. It's long enough. On the woodworking tips involved in this, when I talk about the glue, I like to use this Titebond 2. A lot of people talk about Titebond 3. There's a group I follow where people build their own campers. And there's this term, poor man's fiberglass. I guess it's PMF, they call it. And it's basically wood glue on canvas. And in that case, they're using Titebond 3, and that makes more sense. In my experience, and from what I understand, the Titebond 3 takes a lot longer to set up. I don't like it. I bought it once before, and it ended up going bad because I never used it. I used it at first. It just takes too long to set up. I'm pretty efficient. And the Titebond 2, as I just mentioned a couple moments ago, 20 minutes. And that's strong enough where you can actually start manipulating the parts a little bit. It's not strong enough to like fully work, but it's definitely strong enough for me to run these through the planer and the joiner, you know, to make these perfect. So again, these are the end panels for those boxes. They're all going to get trimmed down to 9 inches. They're going to be 18 7/8 of an inch wide. I'm going to put the rebates on the sides and across the bottom. I got to set up the drill press with a hole saw and 2 holes and then connect with straight lines. So there's some handholds there. I'm going to burn the logo in these as well. And then get those things together. And I don't know how far I'm going to get today on that. But I think I'll go ahead next and make sure all the plywood parts are cut to the right size. By the time I'm done with that, I'll be able to put these through the machine and get them ready. But again, I doubt I'll have the trays done today. But anyhow, I just figured you guys might get a kick out of that. And my little accident, again, it's not a big deal. It's funny, it just skinned the edge of the finger, took a good bit of skin off. I think the fingernail's all there. And it's weird what that feels like, you know, because it happens and it's like, pain is a weird word. I didn't go ouch or anything. I was like, I knew exactly what it was. I felt that before. This finger's a little, I lost the whole corner of this fingertip. Actually, the whole tip of this one and the corner of this one. They grew back fine. And I had stuck them in this machine. That was 20 years or more ago. So, and a lot of the little things every once in a while, but it's weird what that feels like. It's kind of hard to describe it. Most people describe it as like an extreme pain kind of thing, but it's what it feels like is way beyond what it actually is. It's a very strange feeling. It's like somebody just took a hammer and whacked it with a hammer, which is bizarre because it's high-speed steel, highly sharpened, that stuff. You know, it's just shaving. So it's weird that it feels like it got smashed with a hammer. At any rate, I just bled a little bit and held it tight and grabbed the Band-Aid and put it on, and I just had some duct tape on there so that that'll stay on there for now. The pain of it always happens later. You know, I'll give you a little tip. I've done a lot of my own surgical procedures. I have cut things off my body where it wouldn't stop bleeding. I got it right here. I got a scar from it. Can't make it out too much anymore, but there's a scar right here. That had been like a pimple or something at one time, and I squeezed it, and I just didn't get it right, and it turned into a keloid. That was really annoying, and I kept picking at it. I got one of those over here, actually, that I got to deal with. It's just a little tiny thing right there. And I pick at it every once in a while. I end up yanking off my fingernail, and it bleeds. On this one, it was really annoying. So I took an X-Acto knife, and I stuck it in my arm, and I carved it out like the shape of a cone just to dig that out. And I got it out, and it would not stop bleeding. So I took a knife, like a kitchen knife, the tip of it, and I turned the stove on, and I heated it up till it was red. And then I just slapped iron to it, and it stopped bleeding. You cauterize the wound. I just want to bring that up because when you, in a movie, you see somebody do that and like, all these things, you don't feel anything. There's no feelings. The heat of that burns the nerve endings. You don't feel it. Feels like nothing. You can burn yourself. It doesn't, when you first do that, it doesn't feel like anything. It's afterwards where you feel some pain because now it's trying to heal. You understand what I'm saying? So every time you see somebody slapping iron at somebody in a movie and they're giving you all these facial expressions, that's acting. Because I've done it. That's not the only place. I've done it in other parts of my body where there was something I didn't feel like should be there anymore. And I would do more of it if I could reach some of it. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. What is a man? What is a man? What is a man? What is a man? Yeah. A man's a man that does a lot of dumb things because there's nobody else around, and he figures it out for himself, and he lives through it, and he deals with it. That's just one of many, many things. But I'll leave you with that. Have a great day. I hope you guys got a kick out of this. I'll catch you in the next one. You guys will see these trays soon. You'll understand the door panel here pretty soon. There's a lot going on. I don't know if I should talk about it right now. I guess Sunday night chat, I'll put it all in there. This was an interesting week. Talked to a lot of people. There's a lot of possible projects coming up here on the horizon. And I think you guys are going to get a kick out of some of these things. I can't let the cat out of the bag on some of them. That's just how it is. I might even be doing some acting pretty soon, believe it or not. We'll see how that all goes. Anyhow, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Be kind to one another. Bye.